Where, oh, where is Lucille when you need her? Hello and welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today is Shudder Saturday. I am taking a look at movies that are available on Shudder.com, usually, preferably, originals and exclusives, and today it is 2017's Mayhem. I really knew nothing about this one other than the fact that it had Steven Yeun in it of Walking Dead fame, and that was about it. And now having watched it, I really wasn't that impressed, to be perfectly honest, just laying it right out there on the line. The best way I can really put this movie is that it was a film that screamed at the top of its lungs and forgot to have anything worthwhile to actually say. This followed the character of Derek Cho, played by Steven Yeun, who is a up-and-coming rising star at the firm where he works. This movie has a lot of voiceover in it from Derek, and he introduces the audience through voiceover to the concept of the ID7 virus, a biological virus that sweeps across communities that the CDC seems to have a good, tight control on. They think that it'll be eradicated within a year or so's time, but it still pops up every now and then. And when it happens, it needs to be quarantined fast, because what this does is it flips the switch in a person's brain that basically controls all inhibitions. It basically puts you back in, puts your id in the driver's seat of your body, basically. So whatever you want to do, whatever you feel compelled to do, you do. Kill, fornicate, whatever. It just takes those inhibitions, breaks them down to absolutely zero, and although the virus itself is not lethal in a crowded office building, lethal entanglements can very easily ensue. So that's exactly what happens. Is he works in a law firm, and all sorts of political stuff is going on. He, through the use of voiceover, introduces all of the political hierarchies of the firm where he works and the major players there, the Siren, the Boss, the Reaper, and so on and so forth, basically describing other people within the firm where he works, the HR managers, the Reaper, and so on and so forth. And a confluence of events has led him to be systematically conspired against and fired, and on his way out the door, just before he gets there, the virus is released into the building. It is now under lock and quarantine, and everybody, including him, gets infected. So now he has an opportunity to right the wrongs by use of violence and so on and so forth. That's about all I'll really get into as far as the plot goes of this one. I'm going to go ahead and throw up all the scores at once here. Each category is worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And you'll notice that the plot got a 6 and the intent got a 4 out of 25. And those are fairly intertwined as to why they're so low. Really, this was mostly just kind of the cinematic equivalent of a drunken round table of law firm interns that are just posturing with drunken hypotheticals, just kind of going by fantasies of rage and violence against the superiors and the corporate hierarchy that they happen to be entangled in. And for me, that just, it's not that it didn't sit well, it's just that it was kind of blah. It was very juvenile. There just wasn't a whole lot to it that I could really rally behind. The whole thing seemed to be kind of one big inside joke of a corporate stage that I'm just not a part of and I could really care less about. And all of the violence that took place within there, the horror movie lover in me was not really on board with either, because it's just juvenile violence for the sake of violence, and that does not a good movie make. I need more. I need plot. I need characters. I need development. I need conflict. I need resolution. I need something besides just superficial, cool visuals and the air of violent white collar casting off the tie and punching your boss in the face. It doesn't work for a full hour and a half. And besides, the way that it was told was also very, very distracting and just something that I really couldn't rally behind. The use of voiceover in this movie was massively excessive. It was unnecessary during the first 5 minutes, and it just kept going throughout the entire course of the film, and I really just couldn't stand it by the time the end credits rolled. So that affects both the plot and the intent. I have a feeling it was intending to be entertaining and visceral and this I am very badass kind of fantasy come to life, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't rally behind it, and I really wasn't too awful entertained by it. The acting I gave a 10 out of 25. It wasn't bad acting. They just weren't really given a whole lot of any value to work with, in my opinion. Stephen Yeun as Derek Cho did an okay job, but I know that he can do better just because I've seen him do better in other things, notably The Walking Dead. I think he's done a much better job in that. So I'm not really going to say that it's any of the actors' fault in this one. It's just the material that they had to work with and the direction that they were given was pretty subpar for the talents that were potentially there. And the technical, I gave an 11 out of 25. This was the highest rated score, but it still wasn't that great. Some interesting technical moments that kind of worked in service of the scenes that they were attached to, but even the technical visuals were a bit juvenile. There was a distinct lack of visceral, gritty. One of the best examples I can think of is Fight Club, when the narrator fights himself in his boss's office. And it was a short scene, but it was visceral. And when he is crawling on the ground and you see the shards of glass in his hand and the blood is flowing out of him like thick syrup, you can almost smell it in the air when you're watching it. It almost smells coppery and sour. And the entirety of the Fight Club movie was like that, just with how down to the ground and visceral and gritty it got. And this one instead was just kind of red-colored water and slow motion. Again, just kind of I am very badass fantasy-esque, dream state kind of thing. It really didn't have that punch to it, and that's as much the fault of the technical as it is anything else. So I really couldn't give it any higher than 11, even though there were some visuals in this I did like. So all told, I got a 31 out of 100 points. I would really recommend passing on this one, unless you really want to just completely flip your brain off by the time you hit the play button and keep it off for an hour and a half. Then okay, fine, this is a good one to, I guess, go through. But even on that criteria, I think that there are better ones. So that's my review of 2017's Mayhem. I really thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.